How we doing, class? Welcome to week 4 questions take 2. And I'm saying take 2 because I actually recorded this yesterday and screwed up the video, and so I had to record it again. A couple quick things before we start. As I said in the email that I sent earlier this morning, last night we had Campbell Soup come to campus. It's a fantastic experience. CEO Denise Morrison was fantastic. She hinted a lot on market orientation, particularly an external orientation towards consumers. And I know I'm showing you this, but I guess if you're the CEO of Campbell Soup, you get a cool business card. Looks like this. When the video is up, I know Seton Hall recorded the video last night. When it gets up, I will forward that along, and you get to hear it for yourself. Okay, let's get down to business. Questions. Starting off with the Preventing the Premature Death of Relationship Marketing. This is Susan's article. Has the increased access to consumers via the Web 2.0 helped marketers avoid the dangers described in this 1998 articles? I sure hope so. I mean, I know that we have firms, because the tools are available, are doing a much better job of listening to what's happening there in the marketplace. And more than anything else, in the Web 2.0, when we have the crowd that's empowered, whether the company wants to hear it or not, the crowd is telling the company, guess what? You should be paying attention to this, or you should be doing this. So, yes, I think on top of that, we also have a culture of participation by both parties. So I think we see a lot of changes, over the past, 12 to 15 years in this front. Is social media an important strategy in bringing companies closer to the customers? Can it be a good beginning for effective field research? I think it's a fantastic beginning for effective field research. Even before you spend all the money to start doing focus groups or ethnographies or big surveys, you could have a social media listening campaign. With listening to the marketplace, hearing what's going on out there, and deciding, okay, where am I going to spend my resources to investigate what? If your company has a good strategy in place to use the information it acquires from customers, how does it let consumers know there isn't going to be a waste like other companies? Well, if a company has a good learning relationship, they're going to use that information to give more value back to you. If a company is learning stuff about you and not giving things back to you that you like or you want or you desire or you don't think you need, but you probably do need after it's been brought to your attention, then the company is wasting the information and doing what most other firms do. Okay? Which companies currently do a strong job with relationship marketing? I think I've answered this question a couple times on videos. Whether we call it relationship marketing, CRM, whether we call it one-to-one marketing, the retailers, I keep going back to Target and CVS. Online, my poster childs are Amazon, Netflix, and eBay. What does being a partner in a relationship really mean? I think the best way to think about this is that being a partner, it's two-way. It's a back and forth. It is sharing on each side of the equation. We're going to see as we get through later modules this semester, we're going to do a whole module on co-creation of value. And you can hold that thought for now. But being a partner really means, not only listening to the other person in the relationship, but also providing value and telling people what's in it for them. The author mentions that a comprehensive view of consumer behavior is required to build true customer intimacy. What exactly does a comprehensive view entail? A comprehensive view means stronger depth, stronger detail, and in my opinion, it means more than one data point per subject. I mean, going out and doing a nice survey one moment in time is a great way to collect data. I wouldn't call that comprehensive, though. I would call it a snapshot view of my customer behavior. But if you do surveys, ethnographies, focus groups, social media listening, then you are doing a more comprehensive view of your customer base, and that I would say you're more market-oriented in the process. The author discusses methods such as customer visits to get to know the customer. In addition, she states that product satisfaction is linked with life satisfaction. Aren't these theories more intrusive and stressful to the consumer instead of valuable? Isn't the author taking it too far? First of all, let's get to this part of the question first. It is somewhat intrusive to go visit a consumer. And usually the beginning of the interview, and say you're there for 2, 3, 4 hours in someone's house, the beginning of the interview, things tend to be tight. A little bit of trust and rapport needs to be built. But over time, it actually smooths out a little bit. I've been involved with these kind of things. Yes, the consumer might be on their best behavior, and yes, they may not say or do exactly as they might actually behave, because there is the artifact of someone being in there watching them and asking them questions. But it's pretty hard to get away from that aspect of data collection. It's inherently part of the data. Now let's get to this part of the question. Product satisfaction with life satisfaction. And this is really a discussion for the next 2 weeks of readings on branding, experience, and identity. But to do a 30-second highlight, I like to call this my tattoo test. If you love a brand so much, Harley Davidson, Nike, Apple, Volkswagen, chances are you have a tattoo of that brand, or at least some fans of the brand have tattoos on their body. In that case, the product and its personality and your personality become one and the same. You can't separate them. Harley Davidson riders, as you're going to read in the article for next week, it's who they are. They can't ride another man. It's like you trying to root for your sports team's, enemy. It just doesn't work. We're going to do a lot of this next week. Hold that thought. I agree that there are too many options for consumers. However, if a company are giving the consumer all of what they want and need, then is there a better way? Should companies not provide a vast amount of differentiating projects or choices to the consumer? It seems what the consumer wants they want actually turns out to be what they'd rather not have. So, excuse me for 1 second. I didn't have to pause the video because I already pulled these yesterday, so I had a neat stack there. I have a strong interest in this area. This is not necessarily directly on topic for what we're talking about this week, but it was brought up in Susan's article, so let me do a small tangent. It's called The Paradox of Choice. This is Barry Schwartz. This is a spectacular book. Basically, what they're saying in the book is there is a U-shaped curve. A little bit of choice, people are not happy. Some choice, they're very happy. At some point, too much choice, they become unhappy again. Because cognitively, it's too much information for them to wade through to make a choice. So the study that's very popular, it's called the chocolate study. 1 to 2 chocolates, the satisfaction levels weren't that high. Between 4 and 6, they were very good. Between 7 and 9, they were really good. But at 26 chocolates, the satisfaction was weaker than it was earlier in between 4 and 9 choices. Because it's too much pros and cons to weigh through, and there's too much regret, like, well, there's 26 choices. Did I really make the right choice? There were so many others. Maybe there was something better. In many cases, too, there's a jam study and there's a chocolate study. The consumers that were in the condition with 20-something plus choices, they ended up making no choice at all. So instead of making something an actual purchase, they ignored the whole. They're like, forget it. I'm not going to do it. If you're interested in this stuff, shoot me an email. Lots of recommendations. Nudge by Richard Thaler. Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. What a wonderful book. And one of my most favorite, besides The Paradox of Choice, The Art of Choosing, Sheena Iyengar. Is there a way to prevent companies from buying your information? No. I really hate to say it so bluntly, but no, there isn't. Unless you go completely cashless, completely cash, then no. We leave everything you do on a computer is trackable. Everything you do with a credit card is trackable. Everything you do with a loyalty card is trackable. And even if you erase all stuff like that, the government, taxes, when you buy a house, all that information is public record. Go to your town hall, look up the deeds, and that's how Trulia and Zillow gets all their information. It's public record. And all that information gets collected. In some states, like the state of Florida, your driver's license, any of you want to stop driving a car? Your driver's license, all that information gets sold. It's very, very, very challenging. Very challenging. Why aren't companies making more of an effort to provide benefits for current consumers instead of using the money for new businesses? Well, these are not good firms. These are firms that are, not in a partnering relationship, not thinking about their end users, and, they're not providing enough value. Someone else will do a better job. Isn't this article a bit of hyperbole? What demographic was studied to reach these conclusions? This was a professor. You have two incredible scholars and one really, really strong scholar who wrote this article. Hyperbole, I would have to disagree with you. This paper actually was a part of two other papers, one in the Journal of Consumer Research, another one in the Journal of Marketing, both of which won awards. So there are rigorous studies that this is a more abbreviated version that was for Harvard Business Review. So I'd have to disagree with you there. Can a business ever truly be totally customer focused when there are so many functions and factors to worry about? Well, there's always trade-offs. You have limitations of who you are. Apple is not going to go out and become a car company anytime soon. Microsoft's not going to go out and start building rockets anytime soon. You do have to focus on your strengths, and you have to do what you're able to do resource-wise. You can't do it all. You have to focus. So you may hear stuff in the data that, consumers are asking for, but there's just no way for you to be able to offer it. What is a good example of a product that gives the customer life satisfaction? I mentioned this earlier. When was the last time you saw someone with a Buick tattoo? How about Ann Taylor Loft? True Religion jeans? Perhaps. I know there's Twitter tattoos out there. The fail whale and various little tweet birds. I think as we get closer to identity, the fact that you're putting a tattoo on your body of a brand, there's your answer. How do you avoid being intrusive while providing a private, long-lasting relationship with the consumer? This is challenging because you want to collect the data and you want the data to be as natural as possible, almost to the point where the consumer doesn't consciously know that they are giving you data. Like the loyalty card thing is, a pretty unintrusive way to collect data, to be honest with you. Listening on social media is a pretty unintrusive way to, relatively unintrusive. Loyalty card, relatively unintrusive. Social media, relatively unintrusive. The more intrusive you are, the harder you have in building that relationship. The more direct you are, the more in your face that you are, because then people may not be truthful with their responses or their behavior. And from a privacy standpoint, you shouldn't share the information. You should keep it publicly locked up and secure with your own company. I have a bigger problem. My bigger problem is not with the companies collecting the data. My bigger problem is the companies collecting the data and sharing the data, which they do, unfortunately. A good first step for management when building these programs would be to put themselves in the shoes of their customers. How would they like the things the company is doing? Is there something companies commonly do? I'm 100% positive that the executives of these firms are consciously aware of what they're doing. I've linked on a blog before about the CEO of Axiom and stuff with Axiom. Actually, I owe you guys another post on that in privacy. But they know exactly what they're doing because it's making them more profitable. Do they like it? I don't know whether, they obviously don't talk about it in the press. So it's weird. It's hard for me to say from their perspective. Okay, article number 2. Avoiding the 4 perils of CRM. Has CRM increased in popularity satisfaction ranking since 2002? I'm going to say yes. Because the software and the hardware that software runs on is so much cheaper, and because the software, the interfaces, are so significantly better than they've ever been before, they're easy to use. It's like picking up, think about using a computer when you were a kid. You had to learn some things. When I was a kid, I had to learn DOS, man. We were actually programming and using code. I'm old. However, you guys probably grew up using computers and a graphical user interface. But still, that graphical user interface thing like this is still more complicated than an iPad or an iPhone. And now all these programs are iPhone and iPad, easy to use, simple, stupid. How does consolidating consumer information benefit the company? Well, think about Target. So Target has transaction data at the register, and they have transaction data at the pharmacy, and they have coupon and loyalty card information as well. If all of that information is in a common record by separate fields, you have the ability to get a better view of that consumer's behavior vis-a-vis their data. The other thing is that if everything's in one database, and we're going to get to this later in the semester when we talk about data mining, we then can look for patterns of behavior that's in this large set of data and go forward. So there's power in the data, providing the data is sizable enough. The law of large numbers is what we're going to call it. How do you know when your company is internally ready to start implementing CRM technologies? Well, to me, the CRM technology and program comes after the firm being philosophical and strategically ready to understand the philosophy of CRM. Retention is more important than new customers. New customers tend to buy more. They tend to buy more frequently. If the philosophy is not there, there's a problem. No technology in the world is going to solve your non-CRM philosophy. And as per the last video that I made with the articles, I mentioned that if you have a friend that's an asshole, they're still an asshole, even on Facebook. Facebook does not make them less of an asshole. Well, CRM programs and software does not make your company more CRM. You need the philosophy before you get the program. You need the strategy and the reason to why you want it before you get the program. The same comment, oh bummer, the same thing that I'm saying about this, we can say about for all social media, where we see executives pick up the Wall Street Journal and say, oh my God, so-and-so is our competitors using Twitter and they're doing this. Get me a Twitter. I need to start tweeting. You know, it's a knee-jerk reaction. That's the how. You know, how do I tweet? What is it? As opposed to, why should I be doing it? I should be using Twitter for why customer service. I should be using Twitter for why inbound marketing for creating new leads. I should be using Twitter for why as a PR function. These are all strategic reasons to use Twitter, not how to, or a knee-jerk reaction just because my competitor's doing it. And the same thing I'm saying for Twitter, we can say for Pinterest, we can say for blogs, we can say for anything in social media. You need the strategy, the why. How hard is it to convince upper management to implement CRM strategies when 55% of all CRM projects don't produce results? Well, it's usually upper management's fault that it's 55% of CRM projects. You have a number of things going on. Upper management says we should do it. The firm's strategically not ready. Lower management is not rewarded or culturally ready for CRM, so no CRM software is going to help it. You also have situations where we have functional silos and one division over here wants to go CRM and they buy software, but none of the other company integrates with them. So it only goes so far and you don't have upper management buy-in then. So then you'll probably have a decent sized failure rate. You got to remember too, when this study was done and this article was done, it was written in 2002, and that means it was really written in 2000, 2001. The software and the hardware for CRM really was not up to speed. It's not what we have today. It was so much more expensive and so less user-friendly. It seems as though CRM is just likely to alienate customers as increased sales. With a 55% failure rate, isn't that an impediment to asking senior management, upper management to invest in it? I think I can echo this question with some of the same things that we had in the previous question here. On average, how long would it take an average-sized company to properly complete all the steps from planning to creating and implementing a CRM software? Well, I think in today's economy with today's technology, you really could have a Salesforce cloud-based app, iPad-based CRM system running in under a month, including training and a whole thing with webinars. But I'm really going to say somewhere in the 1 to 3 month range, 6 months to 9 months on the high side, where it used to be a hell of a lot longer, when it wasn't cloud-based, when things weren't standardized, And the training was so much more involved because, it intuitively didn't make sense because it was a customized software package. A lot of the CRM software packages today are off-the-shelf, standardized. It's like buying an Excel program. You have an idea of what Excel looks like and how Excel functions. And that's the way CRM software packages are right now. The author provides the following statistics. 55% of all CRM projects don't produce results, and CRM ranks at the bottom 3 for satisfaction out of popular 520 tools. Has this changed? I would say yes. And I'm going to echo, the fact that it's cheaper and easier. I mean, we know for a fact in 2013, just look at Salesforce.com and their revenues over the past 5 years. That's an indicator in and of itself that, oh yeah, people are buying a whole lot of this stuff right now. With the advances in technology, has this increased or decreased the cost, amount, and time it takes for CRM? It has decreased the cost and decreased the amount of time. I think I've hammered that one pretty good. The authors mention that a company must try to first build customer relationships without implementing a CRM technology and software. I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. If this is the case, can CRM be achieved in an organization without any software at all, simply by fostering customer relationships? Let me draw an analogy for you. Some of you might be accountants in class, or you were an accountant in your former lifetime, or you work with accountants at work. Can they do their accounting without their customized accounting software? Yes. They have a calculator, they can use Excel. However, Excel can only get them so far. Sure, it can do all the calculations, but the accounting software does a significantly better job with generating an income statement or a balance sheet or some tax return form simply based on the data that was already put in. The accounting software does that much more. So does the CRM software. You want share of wallet? Just go to table 3 and drop that menu down. You want lifetime value? Drop that menu down. There's so much more that the CRM software can do than just what Excel can do. So sure, you can philosophically start it and you can manually do it, but the CRM software is, it's like going for a run without shoes. You'll do better if you're wearing shoes. Can you run without shoes? Sure, you can run without shoes. How does a company know when it's the right time to implement CRM? Simply put, philosophically and strategically, you have the right culture within your firm for the CRM software. Besides a technology failure, in what other ways can CRM hurt a company? Well, we had an example in the article about the Dallas Morning News or some Dallas newspaper, as they thought they were doing CRM, but they were really just doing more one-way targeting with the CRM program. I think that could hurt the firm. You can alienate your customer base by using the tool improperly. As the information we have on CRM increases, the technology becomes more advanced, more companies succeeding in implementing CRM. I don't have an exact statistical number for you, but I know that given the software industry and how fast it's growing, more companies have to be succeeding. And I know that the software is that much easier to use. And you have to understand, too, when this article was written in 2002, conceptually, the CRM concept was really, only 5, 6, 7 years old at the time. I mean, think about the timeline. We weren't even talking about satisfaction and loyalty until the late 80s, early 90s, and into the mid 90s. All the CRM talk and the idea of coming up with a program that helps us retain our existing customers. This, at the time of this article, was less than 10 years old. We're now 20 to 25 years past this, to the point where MBA programs are talking about it now before it even comes to you in a corporation. Okay, article number 3. This is a toolkit article. Big fan of this one. A lot of solid nuggets, and probably one of the best nuggets of the whole week is the Endowed Progress nugget. How do Atlantic City casinos continue to survive when they reward the disloyal, reward volume over profitability, and pay people to visit, play, stay, dine? Your assumption in this question is that Atlantic City casinos are surviving. I think we could question that assumption, because I don't think they are. Revel has already gone Chapter 11 once. It will go Chapter 11 again either by December or before Memorial Day next year. It's not going to make it through the winter. It barely made it through the summer. A number of the other casinos in Atlantic City have changed hands. Atlantic City in general, since the downturn in 2007, 2008, they're down 10, 15, 20%. The competition, not only from Las Vegas, but all the casinos in Connecticut and now New York and now Philadelphia and now Philadelphia suburbs, it's really eating into Atlantic City. They're not doing well. And their tactics that they're doing are all short-term strategies. and not fixing the long-term problem. So they may come up with ways to just get more people into the casino for that month, but the people that they're bringing in and how they're bringing them in is not going to help them with long-term growth. All they're doing is trying to figure out ways to keep the lights on, and in doing that, they're not developing long-term relationships with the right customer bases that could truly keep the corporation/casino alive in the future. Stay tuned for that one. Do you see reward programs like frequent flyer miles and grocery store programs evolving or disappearing in the next decade? There is no question that they're evolving. There's no question that they're getting more sophisticated with the amount of data and how they're collecting it. I just got a new set of loyalty cards from CVS yesterday, or within the last week, that sync to an app on the phone that there's multiple ways now to get more discounts, check what you want, maybe even do a little self-tailoring of offers, from within your cell phone. Yeah, we're going to see a lot more of it. Is social media an important strategy in bringing customers closer to their companies, closer to the customers? Yes, absolutely, positively. Let's do a small tangent. This is the link that I sent this morning that I said I was going to give to you guys. CMO agencies, it's time to live your brands. How to turn consumers on social media into your best advocates. It is becoming a clear strategy to use social media as a listening tool and to be proactive with social media. No ifs, ands, or buts. All right, sorry. What reasons have you seen for a loyalty program being ineffective? Are there any that the articles have missed? I think the articles did a very good job. The biggest failure is collecting all the data and not using it to provide value to its customers. Collecting the data, we have an Acme around the corner. I have an Acme loyalty card. Half the time I forget it, and they just swipe any old card from the cash register, therefore rewarding me for forgetting my card, and I still get the discounts based on my shopping cart. It's not a very good idea, not a good strategy. Can a loyalty program help reduce the impact of an uncertain economy? Yeah, absolutely. You spend more time retaining your existing customers and you're getting a higher share of wallet from them. At least you can count on loyalty. Loyalty leads towards profitability. Satisfaction does not. We've learned that. It can help reduce promotional advertising costs. Absolutely. Because you can do more promotion in a more one-to-one fashion in electronic means to your more loyal customers. Which companies do you think currently do a good job with their rewards loyalty programs? I think I've mentioned this in a handful of times. CVS, Target, Netflix, eBay, and of course, Amazon. Is the lack of a specific target goal the main issue of businesses trying to implement? Lack of a specific target goal and failing. No, I think the main issue is the company doesn't have a CRM philosophy. And if you are used to always trying to acquire new customers and you constantly push because all you want is new customers, and you have lousy support for existing customers, that's a more structural problem that no CRM program is going to fix. Do some industries fare better with loyalty programs than others? Yes, I think that is a real question. I think if you think about the frequency of purchase, supermarkets, you tend to have to go once a week or at least every other week. You get more frequency of purchase and more data. You have to go. I have a good friend of mine that although he doesn't work there at the moment, he helped build all of Walgreens' social, digital, and online efforts. And he found out through the course of his work that because of the pharmacy, and that's where the doctors send your pharmacy subscriptions to, pharmacy and medication is something very intimate to consumers. You end up creating a significantly stronger brand attachment with that retailer because they're the ones supplying your drugs. To the point where if you decide that if you're in your mid-20s and you decide that Walgreens is your place where your subscriptions get filled, you tend to only go to Walgreens. You get almost 100% share of wallet. So there's two examples, but frequency of purchase, but then also things that tend to have to deal with experiences. Airlines, hotel stays. Those are very, very good opportunities that are better than most when it comes to loyalty programs. What is the average profitability of a successful loyalty programs? To be honest with you, I don't have numbers or statistics, just what we've read in the articles. How do loyalty programs benefit the partners that provide loyalty rewards, such as Tiffany & Co., who provides high-end luxury jewelry for American Express cardholder? Well, you have to think about this. The loyalty program is actually with American Express, and the what's in it for you is the certificate or whatever to go to Tiffany. Now, high-end companies like Tiffany & Co. tend to do CRM type efforts, but not loyalty card CVS style promo, right? So it's American Express's job to know that once a year you tend to have a very big purchase for your significant other. And American Express can anticipate that, create a marketing deal with Tiffany & Co. and give you some kind of a promo to see if you can use your American Express by going into Tiffany & Co. And that's how they do it on the high end. What's to stop your competition from mirroring or one-upping your program? Wouldn't this lead to a price war and create customer disloyalty? Well, by the time you actually made the purchase, if you have a one-to-one learning relationship with a consumer, you're anticipating purchases or know when purchases already occurred. Your competition doesn't have the same data. It's hard for them to mirror. They should always be a step or two behind. And after you've already made that once-a-year purchase at Tiffany & Co., well, it's done. After you've already picked your stuff up at Walgreens, why would you then go to CVS? So, some of it is a data thing, with regards to, these loyalty programs. Usually you get to the consumer before anyone else has an opportunity to do so. Maybe there's a price war, or there's getting people to switch. Maybe there's a price war or one-upping at the start of a loyalty program. Switch to my credit card. Switch to my hotel chain. If we target the most profitable members, how do we identify new customers or existing customers that have the potential to move to higher profit segments? Well, every one of these articles we read at CRM keep talking about segmentation, okay? And you know how approximately the 2% behave and the 18% behave and then the next 35% behave. So we can model new customer behavior based on what we've seen in behavioral patterns from what we really know from our 2% or 18% or 35%. And from there, do experiments. Send them an offer like the 18% and see how they respond. Send them an offer like the 2% and see how they respond. That's what most firms do. If grocery store cards are so ineffective, why are they still in use? Well, for some retailers, they're ineffective. Acme. For some retailers, Kroger, they're incredibly effective. To the point that Kroger targets with Catalina Marketing, and Catalina Marketing knows what you've seen on your computer, ad-wise. And Kroger knows what you've purchased, loyalty card. And Catalina works with Kroger, and Catalina has IP addresses. So then they can start giving you ads for stuff that's promoted in Kroger to see if you actually go through and based on what you see on your computer, if you actually go and purchase it at Kroger. That's effective. Creepy, but effective. What are two very different products that you think can be put together for an effective loyalty program? What are two very different products? Oh, gosh. All right, random. Completely random. Chicken wings, Dom Perignon. And while you're giggling as I say this, there's a bar in Somers Point, New Jersey, outside of Ocean City, called Charlie's, and they have something on the menu that's exactly that. They have like the little hen, the chicken cluck, and that's like the different order sizes. But then you can get a full bucket and a bottle of champagne, and it's like some halo price at the top of the menu. For whatever you would want chicken wings, a bottle of champagne for. Is it difficult to know if a loyalty program will be successful? Since it's difficult to know if a loyalty program will be successful, is it a smart decision to start the program slowly and adjust things that either work and do not work? Yeah, of course. I'm going to agree with that statement. That's too easy of a question. You know, I think you need a loyalty program, and I think you need to walk before you run. You know, it's a learning relationship for all parties involved. It's a learning relationship for you to your consumers. It's also a learning relationship for the internal employees, for marketing, finance, and accounting that have to create these programs and examine, IT as well. Marketing when customer equity matters. This is Article 4. This is not exactly a toolkit article, but it's very much like a toolkit article. In the past 5 years, the practice of modeling has become a standard of marketing efforts. Has it? Well, not just marketing, but finance and management and you name it. Modeling, because we have data that we've never had before. I mean, think about every IBM commercial you've seen in the last 3 years. This is all IBM is doing. Think about Wall Street, whether you like it or not. The quants on Wall Street are running these boutique quant firms. These guys are building algorithms based on gobs and reams of terabytes of data, creating a model, and are predicting where the market could head. Marketing's doing the same thing. Why should the cost model not exceed a customer's lifetime value? Because you do not. Think about it from an ROI perspective or a break-even perspective, or however you want to think about it. But if I'm Dan and I buy Hondas and I pay $25,000 per year per car, $25,000 per car every 6 to 8 years, that's X number of cars I can buy in my lifetime, and that means $200,000 in revenue, right? Well, you would not create a loyalty program that would cost you, the company Honda, more than the margin that you would earn out of $200,000 in revenue. Because that exceeds the CLV of that particular customer. All of a sudden, it's not a profitable relationship. You wouldn't do it. Your costs would exceed your margin. As Wachovia is still using a predictive model, has it been successful in the long run? To be honest with you, I really don't know. I'm just familiar with the article, and the main goal was to introduce to you the idea of getting this CRM data from the database and using it in a proactive method. This is an article that foreshadows or is a harbinger to our big data discussion later in the semester. Are you aware of any cutting-edge tools that allow marketers to pinpoint money spent on marketing efforts versus return on investment? I don't have any tools off the top of my head, but I know that we're doing it. You know, programs. There's formulas. We've had a number of formulas in last week's articles and this week's article for calculating CRE, CRV, customer record, CRV, CLV. I would consider these. I don't know if you mean just, are you looking for a program or you're looking for formulas? Do you consider Facebook or Twitter advertising to be more effective in reaching consumers on a one-to-one level, or does it depend on who you're targeting? Well, yes, it does depend somewhat on who you're targeting, but I know that if we're using Facebook or Twitter, that we're doing a significantly better job with being able to track our marketing efforts. Where was it? I thought I already had it up. This came through on LinkedIn today with Twitter's IPO, 5 key things you need to know and understand about the social ad revolution. So this is a reporter from CNBC. Twitter, because of their IPO, Twitter's very hot in the news at the moment. Twitter's been doing all kinds of these big media partnerships, particularly with the NFL. They're talking about social media as a complement. Here's big data, and data is huge. But here's the key that I wanted to, Madison Avenue and a tipping point. Listen to this. And thanks part to all the data plus a lot of time, I don't hear any skepticism anymore. Marketers and ad agencies are not asking whether they should buy social ads, but rather how and how much. And Facebook and Twitter are not a bake-off. The CEO of ad conglomerate of Republic, Michael Roth, told me that he's interested in both types of ads, saying, you can target marketing to the extreme. He's drawn to the fact that these social ads are so popular on mobile devices, saying, more people access the internet via mobile devices than any other medium. That's where the money is. That's what we're focusing on. Isn't it difficult to track marketing mix elements that involve new forms of media due to lack of historical data? Doesn't the rapidly changing media landscape render some modeling impossible? Well, there are some marketing mix elements that are just so static and so one way. What do you do with billboards? To the life of me, they're pretty, but what do you do with them? They're awfully expensive, and you have no idea whether anybody's actually seen them or not. Radio's almost as bad. Almost as bad. I have a very hard time recommending for you guys to spend your marketing dollars on things that you can't track, and therefore can't model. Can customer equity be modeled for a small business, or is the analysis cost prohibitive for a smaller operation? I don't think it's cost prohibitive. I think the bigger issue for a smaller business is lack of data, because the model can only be built if you have a sizable database. And how many transactions and how rich is the data really for a small business? There's going to be gaps where you have to make assumptions, which increases error. That's the bigger issue with small business, in my opinion. Can you actually isolate what effect of marketing versus outside factors? You can't 100% isolate it. No. We're doing a better job in modeling. We're doing a better job, particularly within a social medium. We have more control. We know more information that we can rule out outside factors. Is it 100% ruling out outside factors? No. The only time you can 100% rule out outside factors is when it's a controlled experiment. And if you're in the marketplace with actual consumers, it's not a controlled experiment. It's a trade-off. There's only so much you can do in the data with that kind of data collection. Relying on market response models which focus on the past could become a problem, right? This kind of relates back to what we talked about last week. The difference between satisfaction past and loyalty future. All right. I'll do a quick 1-minute tangent here. This is a very, very big discussion. And given the classes you've already had in your MBA program, hopefully think back to the discussion of the pros and cons of using a regression analysis. Regression towards the mean and doing a regression analysis is basically taking past data to help you think forward. You're modeling previous variables to see, okay, I have a behavioral pattern, let's test this pattern going forward. Now, my discussion here with satisfaction past is actually a measurement about the past. That doesn't help you at all going forward. At least this measurement about the past, which we're calling loyalty, is talking about future behavior and how I will act towards the future. This is at least a step in the right direction. Beyond that, until we figure out a way to read people's minds and do a Minority Report thing, there's really not that much we can do other than project towards the future. Or, we'll get to the article in a second, try to get closer to real time. Please elaborate on customer equity. All right. Even though it's defined well in the article, it's a very important term. So let's define it one more time. I'm on page 119 of this particular article, and it says, as a practical matter, I'm on the left-hand column, the left side, in the middle. Overall customer equity goal can be broken down into 3 major and measurable components: customer acquisition, customer retention, and upselling / cross-selling to existing customers. The author states that interactive media is important but does not displace traditional media. However, isn't this the way everything is progressing, where there continues to be less and less of traditional media? If interactive media includes social media and blogs, isn't this the best way of advertising and tracking customers via word-of-mouth marketing? Well, broadly speaking, there's no question that we're seeing more digital spend versus traditional spend. I just was reading you Executive from Madison Avenue on that article from LinkedIn that I got this morning. I keep looking for, in the Wall Street Journal, stories from Fortune 500 corporations. Nike, which in my college years was a monster advertiser on television, they love television, which is traditional media. Last year, they crossed the chasm, which means, in my opinion, more than 50% of their overall marketing budget is going towards digital and social versus traditional. Procter & Gamble, and when they do it, it's going to be major headline news, keeps creeping in that direction. The last time I saw a Procter & Gamble number, it was in the low 40s. And every time I see a Procter & Gamble number, it's 3 to 5 points higher than the previous time. Meaning that sometime in the next 12 to 18 to 24 months, Procter & Gamble is going to have more than 50% of their ad budget in social and digital media. So why isn't traditional media completely going away? Well, people really still love magazines. Certain demographics really still love the magazines. And people really do love television. I mean, what would you do without your football? Well, guess what? There is no faster way to reach 30 to 50 million consumers in quicker than a television ad. So, it's still going to be around for a while. But we're going to see the use of it less and less. Or we're going to see traditional one-way media, such as television ads, become more interactive two-way. I.e., there'll be a Shazam logo in the bottom corner of the thing that you can hold your phone up and Shazam the ad and unlock content or deals or some other kind of thing. We're seeing that. There's been experiments. This one is a new article to the class. meaning that I've never used it in class before. It's only a one-pager, but I thought, I wanted to give you a little bit more of a flavor of the negative or dark side to CRM type stuff. Have airlines followed any of these recommendations? To the best of my knowledge, most airlines have not. There are different loyalty type programs. Both Southwest and JetBlue does something different. But to the best of my knowledge, most of them are still doing what they've traditionally done for years. Is there any other value to providing extra rewards to customers who are likely to represent high volume status customers of the future? Well, if you can be confident they are going to be high status in the future, i.e., you have more than one data point for this young business traveler or this newlywed couple, then okay. Otherwise, you're guessing. And if you overspend on a guess or over-reward on a guess, you could significantly reduce profitability. How much do you reward customers who gave you lots of business in the past but are giving you very little now? Translation: you've lost your share of wallet. Someone else is delivering more value than you, perhaps. Or there could be other reasons why, But in a learning relationship, you need to find out why. Did you stop learning? Did you stop offering value? Did you give up that loyalty perk that is what kept them with you and from switching to someone else? And all of a sudden you don't have that loyalty perk anymore? What's the reason? On what other bases can airlines or hotels base their loyalty programs other than money and miles that would allow these great customers not to be alienated? Well, you got to find that out from these great customers. My definition of marketing is find out what they want and give it to them. WIIFM. What's in it for me? If there's nothing in it for me, I'm not interested. It's a listening relationship. Why has the shift from miles traveled to money spent not occurred yet? You have to think airlines have thought of this shift before, but something has held them back. Inertia, complication, not wanting to freak out their existing loyalty program users. It's more complicated than just what we saw on this one pager, even though it intuitively makes sense. Couldn't basing rewards on money spent end up rewarding the wrong customer? What if someone spends a great deal on an airline ticket simply because they're in an emergency and have no other choice? Does that customer really deserve the same treatment as those that are truly loyal? Repeat purchase, making recommendations to friends. Well, if someone spent a whole hell of a lot of money to buy an airline ticket, even if it was an emergency, this is perhaps a customer that doesn't use you as often. Make this an opportunity to gain a new customer. This unfortunate circumstance for this customer, the emergency, becomes an opportunity for you. Take advantage. Take advantage. The author says you should give customers who spend most on flying the biggest rewards, and he states that you shouldn't give too much attention to the top 2%, and that your mid-base could become your best customers in the future. What's your take? Well, we know that he was advocating amount spent over miles because, business class people spend a hell of a lot more than coach people, yet we're all flying the same number of miles. So, yeah, I get that. So there's got to be more than just the perk of the miles. It's got to be the miles plus getting on the plane earlier, sitting in that wonderful lobby, with comfy laid-back chairs, maybe getting a manicure or massage while you're waiting for your flight. But what happens is that, if we look at the CRM articles, particularly the ones that were written in the 90s and the early 2000s that we've read so far, they keep saying focus on your biggest customers. What they're not saying in that segmentation process that they keep recommending is that, the top 2%, the next 18%, that next 18% still could represent a very, very big chunk of revenue. You can't give the same rewards to the top 2% as the next 18%. But if you do a really good job with that next 18%, well, guess what? You have a very, very strong revenue stream out of them. You know? Yes. If the airlines begin to reward based on amounts spent instead of miles traveled, would this lead to an influx of members at an elite level? Would this drive up the cost for these higher tier members? No, I don't think so. Because they're very good, especially at the elite level, with creating segments of the elite level. Think about the last time that you've flown. I was at American flights earlier this summer, and there's platinum, gold, silver, there's all kinds of crazy levels. I don't understand them all, but they've corrected for this. Why is it that airlines do not see the big picture in terms of customers spending X amount of dollars as opposed to miles flown? They don't want to change. I think I've already got to that question pretty good. If you shouldn't over-reward the top 2% of your customers, how are you focusing on your best and most valuable customers? Isn't this an example of focusing on the loyalist? Well, he's just trying to make a point that your customer base isn't just these people. Make sure you don't forget about your 18%. When American Airlines introduced their frequent flyer program, did they prepare for the future and what it could behold? Knowing American Airlines and their management, knowing that they've gone Chapter 11 twice in the last 10 years, I think they do little to no planning for the future. I do not have any confidence whatsoever in American Airlines management that they're doing anything that's forward-thinking. To that point, are CRM programs written to be able to adapt as time moves on? Now they are. It's a hell of a lot easier to modify these programs compared to what they were in the past. Sounds like cell phone companies and their inability to make current custom. Just for instance, in the past, these were all mainframe type programs and they were customized per user. Now, Salesforce.com can do an update and just push it all out, and we update things just like we do on our iPhones and our iPads. It's a piece of cake. It sounds like cell phone companies and their inability to make current customers happy with phone upgrades. Are current customers getting overlooked for future customers? I just don't think they have a good philosophical strategy of dealing with current customers. They think that, okay, I'm going to lose 10 to 15% of my customer base. I have a leaky bucket, so to speak. There's a hole. People are coming out the bottom. They're defecting. That's the churn ratio that we've seen in previous articles. Well, then they're focusing more on getting to make sure that they make up for that 10 to 15%, shoving in new customers. Meanwhile, the more they spend their time and energy looking for new customers, that's less time and energy they're spending on keeping current customers happy. So the problem's just going to get worse. Is it easy to adapt and change and rewrite a CRM model? I think now it is. Or at least I can conclusively say it's a hell of a lot easier now than it was 10 years ago. Finally, our last article. This article was completely new for this year and for this version of our class. I've been teaching this class for like 10 years, and every time I do it, I try to update the articles, or at least a number of the articles. I was very hopeful that this article was going to be exactly what I wanted, but I wasn't too happy with this RET methodology. It seems quite limited, to be honest with you. But I like the idea, and maybe that's the nugget for this article, that you can get insight in real time, particularly with social media listening, where anything that happens on Facebook and Twitter that we can hear less than 60 seconds later. Is there a danger that consumers' perceptions are affected by their perceptions in the R&T study? Are they overly sensitive to the messages because they're aware they need to report in? There is no question that there's an artifact in the data collection. That's how we call it in the academic literature. The fact that they're mindful I call this, obtrusive data collection. But what else are you going to do? Unobtrusive measures are stronger, but unobtrusive measures only get you so far. So as long as this isn't the only data point you have, I'm okay with it being one of the data points in a collage of data points that help you build the real insight. But one data point in isolation, I have a problem with. What types of organizations would benefit most from real-time analytics? Oh, the list could be really strong. But anytime there's high frequency of purchase, then yeah, real-time analytics is great. Even though they're not sure which company is funding the survey, they know it's one of them. Couldn't this skew their responses? Yes, I think it really could. Because they may have more favorable brand attachment to one of these companies versus the other. And if for some reason they start thinking that the survey sponsored by someone that they don't really buy from, it could impact the data. The firm who's collecting the data has to do a very good job on the front end of telling them that, don't think about this bias, basically priming the people to be as neutral as possible. The article says that TV ads are more effective than print ads. But with DVRs and digital readers, they're both ineffective now. Well, as I said a couple minutes ago, TV ads are still the most popular vehicle in the marketer's toolkit, and that has not changed. And the reason why is there's just no faster way to reach that size of a population. My problem with TV ads is that they're not trackable. Not DVRs, not digital readers, but that they're not trackable. I don't know what I got. I don't know how many people really saw it, but we know, someone may retweet something 50,000 times, but so what? Someone retweets something 50,000 times. If we have Sunday Night Football and 35 million people are probably watching it, or 50 million people are probably watching it, you feel more comfortable that at least 10 to 15 to 20 million people actually saw the ad. Would this RET concept be translated into a smartphone app? I think it is already a smartphone app. Because they take a survey at the beginning of the month, they do the rest of the stuff on their phone, mobile, and then they take a survey at the end of the month. There's some kind of a diary component in between. And they're basically looking for change. Here's your brand perceptions at the beginning of the month. Here's your brand perceptions at the end of the month. Is there a delta? Is there a change? What are the disadvantages of implementing RET? Well, first of all, I never heard of this RET before. I don't know how awesome or rigorous of a method it is. So flush this question, and I just want you to more think of the nugget for this class is, think about ways to get insight in real time, particularly with social media listening. I'm not so sure that this methodology is really a strong methodology. What is the direct benefit for customers who are doing these mobile surveys? There has to be something in it for the customer. Agreed. They're getting paid. They're getting a reward. They're getting something. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. It's the one standardized tool that all marketers have. Even Nielsen, who's been doing home surveys of TV viewership for years, everybody gets paid. For those most likely to respond to such tracking, the tech savvy or some digital generation, may not be representative of your customer segments. How do you avoid, therefore, making operational decisions based on what you... Look, marketing researchers, sample selection is critical. And it's so critical, it's like a football coach preparing for the football game. You have an offensive plan, you have a defensive plan. Sample selection is a very big deal. This is one of those things that if you get it wrong, it becomes a fatal flaw. Meaning, none of the data collected is worth the paper it's printed on or the screen that you're watching it on, reading it on, because you sampled improperly. So it doesn't make any difference what the data says. You might as well just throw it out. It's a fatal flaw. Big-time firms that are trained well, they tend not to do that flaw. They do other things wrong. How many interactions were missing due to the persistence of the program being overwhelmed with other ads and interactions? It's tough to know. And I didn't see anything explicitly in the article where they said, on average, we know that this RET method, we're getting X number a day, but we're missing X number per day. I didn't see any of that discussion, or it's got to be a decently high number, right? What types of companies would not adopt an RET method? Well, the easiest way to talk about this is like some kind of B2B scenario. I have a feeling this RET method works best in B2C scenarios where the end user is also the end buyer and also the decision maker, i.e. a consumer scenario. You're going to buy yourself a pair of jeans. You're going to buy yourself a new computer. You're going to buy yourself your own cell phone. In the corporate world, that's not how buying centers work. The user is not the decision maker, and the user is also not the buyer of the software or whatever that business is buying. This RET method would not work in that type of scenario. If RET is a customer-initiated survey, wouldn't only loyalists invest the time to complete the survey? Is there an incentive? I think I answered this question. There has to be an incentive. Otherwise you would never get anyone other than the loyalists. Yes, there's an incentive. Someone's getting paid. Or they're getting gifts. What is the incentive for consumer? I didn't see anything in this article about how much they pay or what they pay, but I'm telling you right now they're getting paid. What are the limits to what constitutes encountering a brand? If the brand is Coke and the participants see someone drinking a Coke, does that count? It could count if you think that that's a meaningful experience. Every Principles of Marketing textbook has some crazy number in it that we see 2,500 to 3,000 brands a day. I mean, think about it. You get up in the morning and you go to your closet to put on a pair of pants. You see 3, 4, 5 brands. Shirts, there's another 12. You haven't left your closet yet. You have at least 3 to 4 to 5 pairs of shoes, right? There you go. You haven't even gone downstairs to eat anything in your kitchen. Anytime you see something, you encounter a brand. You're driving to work. How many cars do you see? I love cars. I look at car brands all the time. You see people in work. Look at this. You're doing a video. You're looking at me. There's a little horsey with a guy here on my shirt. You just encountered another brand. So yes, this RET, the user, hopefully in the upfront, that the survey firm is defining what an encounter actually is. How can the researcher be sure the participant documents every single encounter? They can't. Doesn't the final survey of RET still rely on memory? Yes, but that's the point. They want to measure pre and post. They want to measure in your memory, in your brain, how strong is your brand connection to these 5 brands at the beginning of the survey. And in your memory and in your brain, how strong are they at the end of the survey? And is there a change? How can the researcher know whether the participant would have bought the product anyway without certain touch points? I apologize. I really don't know how they would know. I don't. It's hypothetical. Is there any pushbacks from consumers about privacy issues with RET? They're probably getting paid enough that they're not thinking about the privacy issues. And the only company that's ever, this is a single case. This is not widely used survey methodology. So, can it be hard to track certain demographics because generally these types of questions are optional in surveys? Well, you may not get precise, but you get age range enough. You get demographic range enough. When they come in for the survey, you can see gender, you can see ethnicity, you can do a date range, you know whether they're working or not, you can guess on income levels, you can get ranges, and that would be enough. The article states that users don't mind being involved in the surveys because they're engaging. However, if consumers begin to see too many of these surveys, they may become frustrated. Do any company offer rewards based on participating in these surveys? Yeah, trust me, they're getting paid. They are getting paid. All right, class, I appreciate your time here. I appreciate your energy. One last thing, just to give you more nuggets, because I like nuggets. Social media today, the rise of social media as a profession. So here's the number of job postings within LinkedIn between the first quarter of 2010 and the second quarter of 2013. There you go. Just something to think about for today. Appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. I'm going to upload this as soon as I can. Stop.